Good afternoon, everyone. Coming to you live. We've got Neat Network and Cool Capacity. This is our first podcast kickoff. Today's Friday, April 14th. Rick, would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely, Eric. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Rick Taylor. I am a network manager for Comcast Cable out of Indianapolis. We cover Indiana South and Kentucky and all things network. I've been in the industry somewhere around, we'll call it 28 years just for fun, and been working at Comcast for close to 24 years now.
Nice. Yeah, you've definitely got me beat in the years perspective. I'm Eric Fallows. I work for the HQ TPX Connect capacity and deployment team. And I've been with Comcast for just a little over 17 years now. So I'm still in my teenage years as far as company goes. You're an adult, Rick, so that's pretty cool.
I'm all grown up. Let me hear a little bit, Eric. Tell me a little bit about your career progression with Comcast, and then I'll share a little bit of mine with you.
Cool. Yeah, so I started in the Ann Arbor call center. It was February 6th, 2006. And prior to that, I was unemployed for a little while, and I was out on the hunt, just applying for jobs left and right, and I ended up coming across a posting for Comcast, applied for the call center, and I'll never forget one of the first interview questions that I got when I arrived on site to do the interview was, "Do you know how to troubleshoot Apple computers?" And I kind of thought it may have been a trick question, but it wasn't for me because I was grown up on Apple. You know, my parents had Apple in the mid to late 90s. And so I started in the call center. And at this time, we're like Geek Squad for Comcast customers, you know, and we're taking calls and we're provisioning cable modems, you know, we're fixing email addresses. At this point, CDV had just launched. Comcast Digital Voice had just launched, and so, you know, this was back in the days when that piece of technology had just gotten off the ground right after CDP, Comcast Digital Phone, if I remember correctly. And so spent some time there and moved my way over to what was called the Senior Help Desk at the time. And that's where we supported the rest of the call center members, the CAEs or customer account executives in the call center. So if they had email issues, if they had any sort of modem issues, we would be the ones to help fix that. Actually, a board member on our board, I had started with him. We started in the same class on February 6th, and he got to the help desk before I did, and so I saw him over there. And then we got to working together, and I mean, we were just workaholics, and it helped because from there I went to what was called the NOC or the LMC at the time and did some time with what was called the surveillance team. We'd keep our eyes on this giant board. We called the room a fishbowl. And it was Spectrum alarms. And so we'd keep our eyes on link flaps, on the UR, on the CRAN, CMTS card failovers, video on demand alarms. And so that's really where I cut my teeth. And then I moved into the HFC desk as some of the leadership things had changed, up above us. And after that, went to the network services desk. Became a CMTS engineer, so I started to write configurations for ARRIS C4 products. At the time, we still had Motorola BSRs. We also had Cisco Ubers or Cisco UBRs. And so I did some time with that. And from there, I got pulled out of the division and into the region, and I supported Heartland capacity node splits at the region level. Before the node splits were really a thing. I mean, this was still when just before Netflix had kind of turned up the pipe, if you will. And after that, I did a little bit of time back at the division, supporting division planner record deployment. So we helped with a lot of the CMTS deployments, spent a little time overseeing some of the finances, and then I got pulled into HQ at the end of 2021.
The rest is history, right?
And the rest is history.
That's right.
Yes. How about you, man?
Well, I'm going to ask you a question first. So you said, you could troubleshoot some Apple products and things, and that you had those growing up, right? We were an Apple house, I think it's kind of. What's your skill set on a Commodore 64? That's what we had.
0 to none. And if I can pick up any of your knowledge from there, the knowledge transfer there, yeah.
Mine too, man. It's nothing. But I do remember that the first one that we actually had was a Commodore 64. So, and we did have an Apple. Everybody had an Apple back in the day, right? They were great.
Yes, yes, that's amazing.
All right, a little bit about me. I'm not near as interesting as you. Maybe not as much movement. I would say maybe, but interestingly enough about me, my grandfather owned and operated a super small cable service. They also did satellites, antennas in rural Indiana, Putnam County, Indiana. And so from the time that I could go to work, spring break, summer vacations, about $4 an hour type stuff, I would do that. In '99, I started my career at Comcast. August of '99, I got hired in at Comcast as a service tech. We went from service tech to a position they called Tech 1, right? So I spent about a year and a half. Had some experience working for my grandfather and different things there.
Wow.
So, probably we'll call it 2001-ish, sometime in there, I became a Tech 1. So I was split duty service tech, but then maintenance tech, maintenance on call. And then eventually got hired, a full-time network guy. Been doing that ever since, right? Been in the network department ever since. About seven years ago or so, I started my leadership journey, still in the network department. There was an opening. I applied for the supervisor spot. I was fortunate enough to be given the chance there. Enjoyed that. And then a couple of years ago, there was a network manager spot opened up. An interesting fact that a lot of people, especially us Comcasters, can't say is I've literally been out of the same office since I started my career.
I cannot say that. No.
Yeah, there's very few. That's my one Comcast interesting fact, Eric, is they built a new office since. We did move offices, same piece of property. They built a newer one, but I've been in the same place. Now I've traveled with my career. I've traveled a little bit. Some storm restorations. I've been to Little Rock, Arkansas, Independence, Missouri, and a couple other small places in between. Another one, here's one for you, Eric. As a network tech, I never worked in Michigan.
Okay.
We send techs up every now and again for storms. Back in the day, it wasn't as common. So that pretty much rounds me out as far as what I've been doing. Better than half of my life in the industry.
You had touched on a leadership journey piece, and I'm kind of curious from your perspective, especially as you're talking, leadership. What enticed you to go from a supervisor to a manager, or what drove that self-motivation?
Well, I'll back up a little bit and I'll give you and people will learn this about me, right? I like to clown around and have a little fun. Probably more fun than some people want me to have, or inappropriate fun. But I always told everybody I started in leadership because I didn't want a new boss, right? I was happy where I was at. My boss actually promoted up. When I was at Tech, he promoted to a manager in Big South. He's still down there. And he always told us that we got to think outside the bucket truck. right? We're not getting any younger.
I love that.
It's a demanding job. Think outside the bucket truck. So, and when he moved on and moved up, there was a gap there. They were going to hire a supervisor, and rather than somebody I didn't know or somebody I might not get along with, I figured, why not? The reality behind it is, it wasn't because I was afraid of maybe having some guy come out of Michigan and change the way we were doing business. It was, how can I impact? So as a network guy, I was training techs. I was running a lot of escalations. I was doing some follow-up tickets, stuff that guys got stumped on. I loved it, right? I loved the challenge, and that training piece always stuck with me. And then how do you, I guess, put your mark on more of it? Instead of training a new guy here and there, as a supervisor, I felt like I could really pass along some of my knowledge and my craft to a bigger audience.
Yeah, share the wealth. Yeah.
Right. And what that's really driven even into the management side, right? Now instead of, going straight to the front line, however, I enjoy that piece of the job is being around the frontline employees, and sitting in the meetings, and even when I get time to be out in the field with them, it's really, I'm managing to these supervisors and trying that same, reward for me is to watch them grow, watch them become better. One of my most memorable is a tech, and unfortunately he had to leave the business for personal reasons. But when I acquired him underneath me, now we work side by side in the field as techs, but when I acquired him, I noticed that there was a big, I won't even say big, but there was a gap in his knowledge that should have been there. He wasn't pushed to challenge himself. He was kind of given some easy work, and if he succeeded or failed, it wasn't really expressed that, hey, you didn't do the job correctly, you should have done it this way, or helped him work through some of those things that he was lacking. And to watch him grow and become, what I would say, one of the most loyal, employees, and then really become a very good network tech and expand his knowledge, that sold me on it.
There's something to be said for that. There's a high appreciation just listening to you talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah, that definitely sold me, right? And so, the next transition for me, I figured was to become a manager and go that route. And, maybe I could spread some more knowledge, hopefully, share what I've learned over, the 24 years I've been at Comcast, and produce some better leaders. I got a great team. Nothing but good to say about them, but how can we elevate what we're doing? How do we get better every day? What kind of things can we do differently? What kind of challenges do you offer, right? You probably see this in your job. Sometimes you got to challenge yourself, right?
Yes.
Sometimes we get bored.
I'm one that works extremely well under deadlines and pressure. That's what I've found out about myself over the years. It's not always the way that I like to work, and I think what happens is sometimes I'll stress myself out or psych myself out with the deadline, and wonder how on earth am I going to be able to execute this work. And it happens time and time again with each new challenge presented with. But then somehow you persevere through it. But yeah, for me, sometimes it's psyching myself out. It's having a deadline to crush and smash, and so it's a good feeling.
Yeah, no, absolutely, it really is. So, and I think deep down, there's a whole lot of us. You look at it from the network side. A lot of us, we're fixers. We want to fix things. We enjoy that piece. Relate your job to some of the hobbies you have outside of it. My hobbies are all working with my hands. I love that piece. And that's what's kept me engaged. Now, I love technology too. I was talking the other day about connected devices in homes and things, right?
The IoT
I'm
of
not
things. Yeah.
I'm not the most technical person when it comes to computers and this, that, the other. I can barely work through a spreadsheet. That's me being honest. But, my water softener is connected to the internet, and I can shut my water off if I need to.
That's practical.
That's the kind of stuff, right? I got lights and all this stuff, right? And that's what's driving the business, is that Internet of Things, right? And that stuff I love. That's the stuff I love.
Yeah.
I lose sight of it sometimes. I think a lot of people do, from why we're doing what we're doing. But then I sit back and I can turn my air conditioner on from the couch using my phone because it's connected. You know what I mean? It's made me a little bit lazy. I'm not gonna lie, but
it's always a forefront in my mind too.
And that's where that's where you circle in, right, with the capacity piece and the things on that end. If it weren't for folks like you and the people doing that kind of work, watching that, all this fancy stuff that I have doesn't do well.
Right.
So.
Right. As I often like to say, we're the team that no one is supposed to know about. I mean, the customer isn't supposed to know about us, and that's a fact. We're behind the curtains, and that's the way it should be.
Let me ask you a question then, because I talk to this sometimes, on the network side, but how do you find reward in that? When you look historically, and we'll go back maybe to your call center days, you're walking a customer through their issue, and you're able to resolve it over the phone, right? There's a lot of gratitude from that customer.
Yes.
What's that like now? How do you find that gratitude? Is it in the deadline beating? We'll call it you beating those deadlines.
Yes.
Or is
I would say a lot of that. I would say some of it is just comparing, scrubbing, and analyzing multiple data sets. It's also serving what I would call the customer today, and those are the engineers that we help serve throughout the company in our multiple divisions. So there's a lot of gratitude there, and I think the reward is that I've always kept in my mind, or I've tried my best to, don't ever forget where you came from, and I think it's undervalued, and I'm able to reap the benefits today because I'm still willing to dig in at my current position. And I like to keep that as my brand. Sometimes, as I tell my leadership, it's just a good thing to keep no matter where you go. And so I've always kept that with me. And so it's not like I'm out and looking for kudos. If I get them, great. If not, so be it. That piece doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, and that's a good point, right? You don't need that I guess I'd call it recognition, right? But there's some fulfillment that everybody wants to have,
mm-hmm.
And same, right, on the network side here, you go out and you smash a problem that's affecting a whole node. That feels good. The customer might not come pat you on the back. They might not even have known you were there working to solve a problem.
Right.
But you can look back and see that and just feel good and rewarded just from your work.
Absolutely. I'm going to take a moment to pivot here to CLC 2023.
Let's do it.
Chapter Leadership Conference, and I know that you were our chairman for this year, and you were a great successor. You did a wonderful job. You led the planning committee to an outstanding finish, and I'm curious from your perspective how you felt the event went as a whole.
I thought it was great. I'm biased, right? I was the chair this year. I was asked to be the chair. Had no idea what I was getting into. I did very little, I would say that, right? I think the planning committee that you're a part of, and several others, that's where the magic happened. Behind the scenes, coming up with the content. I got to throw the plug in for Jessica. She's definitely the ringleader of that group, but along with the other folks at National, Robin was there, Annette was there. So really a giant team is what pulled that together. I did get a lot of the praise on it from just different people.
That's wonderful.
After the event at the end, and everybody that came up and said, "Oh, it was a great event. You did great." I stopped them there and I said, I didn't do anything. The team did it, right? The whole group did. Those interactions, those monthly calls that we had. Heard a lot of good feedback about some things that happened this time. We did the right off the bat, we assigned you to a table.
Yeah, I love that.
We were doing,
that created
right?
the cross function immediately. Yes.
Yes, right off the bat, you're meeting new people. It definitely had an impact on me. Met some people I would have never talked to. Forced my hand to talk to them, and it was great. And I think I'm going to foster relationships from multiple people I sat with. So just little tweaks that we made, I think, really made an impact to the conference.
And I think a lot of it was just roll of the dice, right?
Absolutely.
I was sitting at a table with people where, it's just a small world in the who's who and the who knows who and the who works for who. Sometimes it's mind-blowing, even though you don't know the person that you're sitting with. They know people that you know, and they might be doing a lot of the same job functions in your world, potentially. Maybe not.
Well, and there's somewhere, I think, somewhere around 150 people. I think 42 different chapters participated. Everybody like-minded. We're all in the industry in different parts. Some people do more things than others. Of course, everybody at this point should know Alaska Berry.
Alaska Berry.
And his company, Alaska Berry, they have their hand in a little bit of everything up there.
Yeah.
So it's not like, I'm cable TV kind of a guy, right? I'm the Comcast. Interestingly enough, there is people from all different backgrounds, all different levels of the business, from service all the way up to VPs. Just a phenomenal, setting, I would say. So, love that right off the bat that we kind of mixed it up a little bit. I thought the breakout sessions, really good content, and then those breakout sessions, for people that don't know, basically chapters that do well in that area are asked to present. I think your buddy Sam, I believe he was in one of those.
He did,
presenting.
Yeah.
He had a couple different roles there, Sam Akoff. But so they take those, they're successful in that section or that place for their chapter, and then they share that knowledge. You get to move around, you get to learn different things. It's all things chapter relations, anything you need to know about SCTE and running a board and leading a board and being part of a board in that team. It's covered, or somebody there can help you.
Absolutely.
So the feedback so far has been good. I've had a couple people approach asking to be part of that planning next year.
Very cool.
Which to me tells me that was good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And man, awesome conversations planning it, and then the execution, and that's where national really comes in, right? Picking the location, arranging the hotels and the conference pieces. A lot of logistics there, right? I don't deal with, and I'm okay with that. But they nailed it. They knocked it out of the park. The hotel was great.
The hotel.
I've never been to Oklahoma City.
Yes. That was my first time there, and getting from the airport into the hotel, the very first thing that I noticed on the drive, and I had even said something to my Uber driver on the way in. It may have been 15-minute drive to the Skirvin there. I said, "It's very flat here," and she laughed. I've never seen that much flat land in my life. And then, getting to the downtown area is just such a clean and nice downtown area, and I think they accommodated us very well.
Yep.
And overall,
Absolutely.
The weather was good. The people were nice and polite.
Yeah. No, I didn't meet anybody that was rude, or it was an awesome experience from that standpoint too. So Location was good. It is flat. I live in the middle of Indiana. We're flat here, so that was normal for me. Indianapolis is a small town, or city. I guess I'll call it a city. So for me, Oklahoma City felt like home. It's not real big, You're up there by Detroit, where it goes on for days.
Absolutely.
That's a big city to me.
Sprawling. And you mentioned Chicago. Indianapolis. And you guys were the 2021 winners. The Central Indiana chapter was. You finished chapter of the year. And as I understand it, only 10% of the SCTE chapters that have completed their compliance requirements earned this spot. And that was really cool to see, especially in your hometown last year.
Yeah, that was awesome. Definitely a memorable event. We had some fun. It was easy for me. My travel was 40 minutes. That was perfect. I'd do it again. But let's not shy away. We placed 8th that year for Central Indiana, and I'd like to hear your guys' chapter really honed in on that. I think your board really was keyed in looking at that award and how do you guys get there, and where'd you guys finish? What was the award? What was the trophy you guys got this year at CLC in Oklahoma City?
We finished at 4th place, and I think it goes without saying a lot of the respect and planning and leadership came from Nico Flurin, who's now our Region 7 director, right? But his 1 year as president changed everything. It changed the whole game, and we definitely have to give him his flowers for that.
Oh, absolutely, and you're 100% right. Nico is the Region 7 now. He took that over from Rudy Dauncey. Look forward to great things out of Nico. Great leader. He's my counterpart. Tons of respect for the guy. So I'm excited to continue that, fostering that, I guess, winning mentality in Region 7.
Yes.
And with Nico's guidance, I think we can help all the chapters in the region, right?
We certainly can.
Yeah. We're gonna try to hunt you down. Central Indiana, we're gonna try to pass you up. But
that's right.
I'm on your mailers. I see your mailers. It's a lot of competition. That's gonna be hard to keep up with. You guys are doing an outstanding job, and a lot of support from the board members there.
Yes. Yeah, the 4th place thing was a big deal for us too. I think just because it had been so long, and I know it's not all just about the points chase, and it's also about the experience, but it had been over a decade since Great Lakes had even placed. And if I rewind back to 2021 and watching you guys get to go up there and do your thing, with the photo opportunities and the award, I think it drove a lot of us that were sitting in the room at the time from Great Lakes to do better.
No, and that's another thing that's neat about CLC and that awards banquet, is it really sparks that passion to do a little bit better. The points chasing. I'm gonna go down that road quick. You brought it up. The points. I probably brought it up really, but yep, we're graded on points. I got to spend a little time with Aaron Weimer at the CLC event.
Aaron Weimer, yes, yeah.
He said something to me that I cannot get out of my mind, and it's, how can SCTE bring value, and how can, and us as chapters, how can we demonstrate that value to others around us, and he said that to me, and I thought, man, that's something that I overlook sometimes because we're worried about compliance in the chapter space. We're worried about, did we make it in the matrix? Are we in good standing for this? But really, how can we use that to our advantage? And then how can we offer this value?
Yeah.
Right? And I guess we should have said this from the get-go. if anybody ever recorded a conversation between me and Eric, or really me and most people, you're going to learn that conversation is not in a straight line. I see the squirrel and I jump around, and it may be hard to follow sometimes, and I apologize, but
I follow you.
You know, we were on the CLC talk, and then but Aaron really that impacted me pretty deep. That, you know, there's a lot of things we're doing at that chapter level, you know, but are we showcasing how much that the chapters have it? Well, and it's not just SET, right? Cable Labs is there, you know.
Yep.
So immediately I start looking at different trainings. You know, what can my job, you know, the folks that work with me, you know, from leadership down, where can we benefit from this? And there's so many courses, so many things. Yeah, we can do some trainings, right? They're awesome. The techs love them, and you know, what else can we do?
Yeah.
You know, and that's something that's kind of stuck with me. I guess if you wanted one of my most impactful events or moments from CLC was that conversation I had with Aaron.
That's beautiful. It resonates with me as you're talking about it. And I think he hits on some good points. And I think there's a lot of folks in the cable industry that maybe don't know or understand what the SCTE is about and kind of what we socialize and do. So I think some of it sometimes, and I know this didn't have anything to do with Aaron's point, but it made me think of it, is the fear factor. And then I can take it even one further, right? Since we have the luxury of having a high-performing board, how did we get to this point? And how are we getting board members to raise their hands, to jump out, and to help out and do things for the industry? And I'd say it's not easy, but I'm curious from your perspective for Central Indiana, how do you motivate other board members to get involved and jump all in?
Well, that is the telltale. I'll tie it back to CLC quick. And there was discussions about this. There were breakout sessions about this. When you were in group settings, this comes up every time, right? How do we get board members involved? How do we keep them engaged, right? How do we motivate them? You know, I'll tell you the easy secret is find people that are already highly motivated, that want to be a part of something bigger, that see that value that's already there, that exists. You know, whether it's, you know, personal career progression, whether it's building stronger teams, which, you know, stronger technicians, things like that. Where can we get that content? Where does it come from? But really, it's finding some people that are motivated. You know, we're in an industry where there is a lot of motivated people, you know, and then tying that back to, you know, maybe there's some benefit for them, whether it's personal or business. And then showing them that, you know, hey, if we, let's say, for instance, we have a training on we'll do RFI, right? That's a hot one right now, RFI. You know, my vice president, Jeremy Neville's a network supervisor in Richmond, Indiana. You know, hey, Jeremy, I want you to set this up. I want you to work on this training with Eris, per se, you know. He's going to be, that's rude, phone's ringing. He's going to be motivated because he'll, you know, if I can show him that value that his technicians will get it, that will get from that training, that's going to motivate him. That's going to make him better. It makes his job a little bit easier, maybe. You know, he's going to learn from it too. So I would say find highly motivated people. I don't like to force people into tasks. I find it that if I force your hand at it, you're not committed to it. You know, so
I agree.
When we do our, you know, and I think you guys probably somewhat similar. You know, we ask for who wants to volunteer for this. You know, inevitably, and you may or may not, I get myself into this where I raise my hand for some different things to chair different subcommittees on our board. You know, and then I look through the roster and I say, all right, well, this associate member, these are some strong qualities he has. You know, he didn't raise his hand in the first, but let me talk to him about it a little bit. Let me explain what we're doing here and see if there's any interest there. You know, the reality is not everybody is going to be engaged, and that seems to be the problem. But I think if you find the right people and you can get the right people on your board, they start to, a smile's contagious. Well, so is that motivation.
It sure is,
so,
yeah. And things start to click.
Nico,
yeah, yep.
Yeah, sorry, I talked over you.
Nope.
I think with Nico is, if he's in there and he's in front of everybody as the president last year, right, and he's driving those results in a positive way, it starts to be contagious, right?
Yeah.
So I think that helps. But what do you think? What do you think your guys' key to success is? From that piece for your board.
When I look back at it, I think it's really been building the farm team, as I would like to call it, and building up the assistant board members.
Absolutely, yep.
The people who want to get involved. And what's also helped us with some of the groups, throughout the state of Michigan, specifically as an example, I'd say there's a few engineering groups, where the leadership is super encouraging for their employees. Let's take an HFC tech, for example, and his boss is all about his tech, taking as many SCTE trainings as he possibly can. We just sent out a recognition at all chapter members today, and there were...
Love it.
Yeah, like 23.
Love it.
And so I think it's things like that. And that's where a lot of my focus is for this year, is on our membership and the recognition. But when I look back in previous years, just like any other chapter has, you end up on those calls and in those board meetings where the president or the VP are asking for volunteers and you can hear crickets. It's so nice that we don't hear any crickets anymore. And
and I think there is still a lot that, talking, and you talk to different chapters, right, that those hands are slow to go up, but to your point, I think building your bench, so to speak, with quality people encourages that involvement, right?
It does.
So they're not afraid to raise their hand.
I'd like to pivot again. That was a great. That was a great discussion.
I'll drive you all over the place, bud. You go one way, and I'll take it somewhere else.
How about a Central Indiana Vendor Day and Cable Games plug?
I'll give you a quick plug on that. So, April 26th, Hoosier Park Casino, Harrah's Casino. There's a horse track there. We've held several good events there in the past. Historically, our vendor shows. We're looking somewhere around, I was just doing some work this morning. We do our Cable Tech games, same day. So we have the whole downstairs in front of the horse race track. And I'm talking with my hands for those that can't see me. The whole downstairs. And we pile in vendor tables down there. I think we're going to probably be around 25 vendors. Closer to 30 or 32 vendor tables. So pretty good turnout from all our vendors and our sponsorship. Look forward to it. We do a lunch. Casino, provides the lunch for us. Vendors pay for it. But at the same time, we run our Cable Tech games. So we're available for 10 teams. Teams are built. We always try to leave one open team in case we have some walk-ups. We're heavily saturated with Comcast, but there is Charter. There's Sparklight is another one around. There's MetroNet. We used to get some AT&T folks come through. So we're really looking forward to a strong event. I know that some of our different groups, the engineering group, we're nudging some folks in the network side and construction side, and then our tech ops folks, trying to get a lot of people to walk through. I want to give that value back to the vendor. That's our sole goal in a vendor show is to make sure that people are touching their products and talking to them and seeing what's new and what's hot. And hopefully that brings it back to some leadership and maybe trial some products. I'll say from my experience, Eric, we found some pretty neat stuff out there. Some channelized light meters, the DSIM automatic drive units for amplifiers that we found at vendor shows that have had definitely a positive impact on the business from my perspective. So I love them. We're doing pretty well. Super excited. If anybody is wanting to join or show up, come on down. We'll kick off about 8:30 in the morning on April 26th. So
you had a really cool event. I was there in 2017. That was neat, and that was actually my first ever SCTE vendor day.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
I think that was the first time I met you in person, if I remember right.
Yes. Yep.
I think you were with McKay. Is that right?
Yeah. Ian and I had traveled down there together, and we went to the Hoosier deal, and that to me was fun. That was probably my first experience from an SCTE perspective, if I think back to even before being a board member or an assistant board member. That was my very first experience. Yeah. Wow.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. It's a lot of work from the chapters. A lot of time goes into those, and the vendors, you got to feel for them. They're doing 10, 12 of these. They have a whole schedule built out. Hats off to them. I don't like to travel that much, but they always do their best to get there and show up at all the vendor events they can. So it's fantastic. And we do pretty well with our vendor support. I mean, I have zero complaints. They always are raising their hand to help. They put down some sponsorships for us, and the least we can do is throw a good event for them and try to get, I think we're shooting somewhere. I'm going to guesstimate 120 to 150 people will walk through that show, including vendors. And then we'll have our cable tech games, which is always fun too for the techs. So, you guys have one coming up soon?
We do, the 9th of May at the Novi Sheridan. And I was just taking a look at our statistics and data as you were, talking, just to see if we measure up to Central Indiana. And I think we're at about 25 vendors right now that are supporting us. I'm going to go out on a limb and guess we'll probably fall in about the same range, about 120 to maybe 150 people. And what I love about our vendor day in cable games is the chapter members are there to serve and to do all the things in order for the vendors to be able to mingle with the other folks that are there. And it's always a neat experience for us. And so I got involved in vendor day. I think it was 2019. I was still an assistant. And if you had told me at that time that I would be running the scoring and keeping track of all the math for all the games, I would have told you were out of your mind. It's something that I love to do. It's my favorite part, and I get a couple helpers. And something new for us this year, I'll pass this along to you. You guys may already do this, but since membership is a core focus for me for this year, we do plan to have a membership table and booth kind of in between the vendors, right? So imagine, as you're coming into vendor day and you're walking through the halls, you walk into the main room, you might walk past a Digitrace booth, you might walk past an Alpha booth, and then you make your way to the CommScope booth, and then you walk by our membership table. And
so you gotta throw that table in there.
Yeah.
I think membership's important to everybody. I'm gonna try to one up you. I'll see if I can. We set up a golf outing table, and this year I think I'm gonna throw out a whole sponsorship. So if you drop your business card, we'll do a drawing for a whole sponsorship, which means when we come to our golf outing, if Eric Fallows dropped his business card and I drew yours, the ninth hole might be the Eric Fallows hole.
That is very neat. Yeah.
Just to hopefully drive some folks to that. We'll have a little putting green. I think I still own it. I'm looking around my garage. It should be here somewhere, just to kind of lighten it up. But here's the big one: is Miss Robin Fenton is gonna be in town for our vendor show, so she's gonna have a table set up as well, with some literature and some things about SCTE. So very excited there. We've had some folks from National visit our vendor shows. It's got to be tough for them with so much going on, but I'm excited to have them in town and have them set up at a table as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to go back on the one-up thought, right? Because you definitely one-upped us there.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And when you talk about special guests, we're going to have Jeff Leggett from Cable Labs at our vendor day this year. He's a VP of their infrastructure. And so that was pretty neat, and to plug Nadia too, awesome. Especially for all her help. She was a special guest at our vendor day last year, so that was neat to have her there and to have her support.
Oh, it's good to, and again, I mean, the national folks, the Cable Lab folks, they're going 120 miles an hour every day. So for them to take time out to visit local events, it means a lot to us. And I think they deserve a little pat on the back for that. They're away from families too and things. So pretty awesome. I think maybe not a vendor show, but I know there's some other stuff coming up. I don't know if you follow the Gateway chapter.
I do. Yes.
They've got their cable games coming up real soon. Potentially, I think it's the 19th is the Gateway chapter. I got to meet Dennis from that chapter, and then Hunter. I actually met Hunter by sitting at the table right at CLC. So throw a little plug out there for the Gateway chapter cable games. Looks like Wednesday the 19th.
Very cool, guys. I've got a funny story. After Gateway hit that one spot, and then we had planned out the session, where other chapters could do a quick connect with the winners.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm sitting at, I'm kind of waiting in line to talk to Dennis Russell from Gateway. And Nadia sees us both sitting at the same table. And she says, "Oh, no, this cannot be happening right now."
Poor Nadia, panic set in. What's happening?
Yeah. And so, to your point, I didn't get a chance to meet Hunter. I know of him. And talking with Dennis, it was really cool. So it's cool to see what they do, too, to drive so many matrix points. When you get back to the points chasing, and him and I had a conversation about it. I mean, regardless of the paperwork that you're putting in to do all these things, you really are doing all of the things, and it should feel good if you're doing that well. And that kind of resonated with me, too, when he had said that.
Yeah, and I think it is very the volunteer work to me is very rewarding, and the big picture there is the value that you receive and what you can pass down to others. But that's one thing I was thinking about as we're talking through is I look at up in Michigan there's Great Lakes. What's the other chapter? Lake Michigan chapter.
Yep.
And then you've got Central Indiana here, one that I don't think, which is, kind of in between us. You've got the Michiana, you've got the Buckeye chapter over there. One thing I think between this Indiana-Michigan group is the lines of communication, and I think that helps spark my, or reignite my passion for it. Sometimes it's just having a quick call with somebody, and maybe not even you, Eric. Maybe it's, I talk to a Sam or a Brandon or, Jeff Haggerty or any of these folks that are all part of this bigger picture.
It's a strong skill set of ours. Yeah. And to throw that in there and to echo what you said, same way with my conversations, with Matt and Justin and Josh. So,
sure.
Yeah.
But I think that, watching you guys do very well this year and you guys watching us do well the year before, and it definitely gives some motivation, behind the scenes for each chapter to keep running, and then getting to learn from some of the folks that are winning, that are number one chapters. That goes back to what CLC about. That's it. How can we learn, grow, and be better, and then these networking connections that we make that we take with us forever. to me is just a huge piece of why I'm part of the SCTE and the chapter. So I figured I'd just jump in there and share that.
Absolutely. I'm going to take a moment to plug Heart of America's chapter vendor day. That's on May 16th, so it's about a week after ours in Kansas City. I was talking with their president about a week ago. He had reached out to me, asked me if we'd plug them up and do a little cross collaboration, get something out to our distribution list. So we sent him something out there, right, for teamwork. So it's Heart of America's Vendor Day at T-Shots at 660 North Metro North Drive in Kansas City, Missouri. And their event kicks off at 7:30 in the morning.
If you're in the Kansas City area, want to meet some awesome people, it's a vendor show, right?
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. That's it's neat, man. Think about all the people you've met, and you're working, where you work across the country, in your job title and things, but just think about all the people from California to New York, that you've met through CLC or SCT in general.
Absolutely.
It's very beneficial. I've always leaned on, I love the vendor relation. I don't go and look for manuals when I have questions. I just call my vendor, but I got to know them through SCT and vendor shows like we're talking about, right?
That's awesome.
And it makes my job easy. If I need a product or I need information on a product, pick up the phone.
Yes, sir.
Build those relationships. So
yeah,
definitely some awesome stuff coming out of and things happening, everywhere, and I got, at least for me, I got to share, that SCT is a big part of that. So
yeah, it's helped boost my career. And what I mean by that is being able to thrive even more in the cross function in my volunteer job with the SCTE. It also helps too internally. And so it goes both ways. And I would say one of my favorite parts about being involved is I've always been encouraged to be involved from day one. And I know that unfortunately is not the story for everybody when you talk to people throughout the SCTE chapters. And so like some of us have to feel extremely fortunate for leadership that backs us going to these things as a representative of our company.
No, and that's a good point, because without the support of my director, my manager back, when I started my journey on the board, 6-7 years ago, without their support, and I've been to several different cities, on our chapter's dollar, so to speak. Had a lot of great experiences that the chapter paid for, and all I had to do was volunteer my time. But without that support from that leadership, you're absolutely right. So, hats off to the leaders that are able to support that and that feel like SCTE is a value or see that value.
Yeah.
Not necessarily, but they see the value in it.
Right.
But
it's not just about holding puppies and kissing babies.
Oh, if it were, I'd be even better at this.
Well, it's been great chatting with you today, man. We're at about the 54-minute mark here. Anything else you've got?
Well, I would just say, Eric, to you guys up in the north, up there in Michigan, keep doing what you guys are doing. You guys are doing an awesome thing up there with your chapter. Appreciate all your support, with the CLC committee and things. You're the one I call after the call, right? You're my guy I call after the call. I'm like, wow, that went sideways, or man, that was a good discussion.
Yeah.
And interestingly, we met at a SCT event in person officially. Work drove us together, I guess.
It did, yeah.
But I'd like to say that we've formed this friendship. I look forward to seeing you when we get together at events or different things like that.
Feel the same way about you, Rick.
I love, our random conversations, mostly because I go in 100 different directions. But you inspire me to do better in this space. Your passion ignites
man.
that.
Yeah.
I think it does that for a lot of people, and I don't know that that happens.
No.
So keep doing what you guys are doing.
Yeah, and same to you guys too. I think you hit on it earlier. The communication lines between chapters. It's something special that we have here, and it doesn't. It's never no sweat off my back if Matt picks up the phone and calls me, or Justin sends me an email, or Josh reaches out to me. I think really what you said, or the stepping stone that you've set is for other board members on your team to also have those same kinds of open communication lines, and it's wonderful.
Yeah, they need to make those connections, or foster those relationships, and I think that there is a piece of success that falls with that, that some of us have embraced, just because. But I would say that to any chapter leaders, if you're not leveraging, region or even outside of your region and fostering these relationships between chapters, it makes it easy. It definitely makes it easier. And we have a lot of fun, right? I mean, you get the band together in an event. It's a whole lot of laughs and a whole lot of random discussions. But,
it sure is.
Definitely memorable moments. So, but why don't you wrap us up? I know you're a busy fella, so if you can't make it down to Central Indiana, I think I can make it up to Michigan. So I should be seeing you pretty soon.
Very nice. Yeah. And, I'm thinking for next month here in the coming months, we, depending on the interest that we get, we'd like to start to introduce special guests to the show. So thanks everybody to listening to Neat Network in Cool Capacity today. And we look forward to talking with you again soon.
Absolutely.